YouTube Ozic, the Go Nows is back. And I know I say that in every single video, but we're actually back this time. I was gone for a week on vacation. No video for a week straight. It was super weird, but we're actually back. And while I was gone, I think a lot of you noticed this as well, especially if you follow us on Twitter. PFF ranked their top 10 head coaches, and it was just terrible. And that kind of inspired me. My first video back. Let's rank the coaches. And I did more than just top 10. We ranked every single NFL coach, placed them into tiers. I think I did it the correct way. I won't have as many complaints as PFF, I don't think. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed making this one. But on our Twitter as well, you guys been voting for who will be which seed of the play, who will make the playoffs, basically. We finally are done with that. That's what you guys voted for. Some surprises in there. And now we're on to the wildcard round. So you guys are voting for every step of the way here. All the tweets are under this thread. You'll see them if you go to it. It's struggling to load right now, but it's there. And we'll go round by round on to the Super Bowl. We'll see who you guys have as your Super Bowl winner. So check that out. But on to the coaching rankings by tier. So actually the last five guys aren't really ranked, but the rest of the coaches will be ranked. The tier 8 is the unproven guys. And usually, when it comes to players, usually like rookies, I rank rookies. I'll rank unproven players just because you kind of go about the evaluation process. You make a prediction based on what you've seen from them. Coaches, to me, is a little bit different. We have not seen these guys in action as head coaches, so it's a big mystery. We kind of got to wait and see if they can lead a team. It's just something they haven't really done yet. But real quickly, really all solid hires. They all have positives here. We've kind of went over this in the past, but Dabo, I like his offensive system. It's been proven in Buffalo. Can he be a head coach, lead the team for the Giants? I like to think so. Can he elevate Daniel Jones' game? I like to think so, but I think he can identify that quarterback of the future, whether it's Daniel Jones or not. Kevin O'Connell, my favorite part about this is the Vikings kind of go into that new era, the new school type of offense. They kind of been stuck in just a run-first offense, use your tight ends. Now we're going to see a little bit more 11 personnel, which with those receivers is fantastic. So new look Vikings. Mike McDaniel, yeah, you love that Shanahan system coming out of San Francisco. A good offensive mind to simplify things for Tua Tagovailoa, and they have talent now. Nathaniel Hackett, has the experience under quarterback Aaron Rodgers, now in there with Russell Wilson, kind of building that together, so that's great. And Eberflus, I think, is a very good defensive coach. I guess the downside is he won't be running the actual defense, but he'll play a big part of it as the main leader of this team. I think he'll kind of get that Bears team well-disciplined, which they kind of been lacking in the past. So those are the great things about that. But on to, so that was Tier 8. Tier 7 in the rankings, these guys need to step up. They need to prove more. They got to be better. 27 is going to be Lovie Smith. It felt like that was kind of another bridge coach hire, in my opinion. I kind of thought that last year as well for the Texans. So Lovie Smith, hasn't done super well as a head coach. I know the last time we seen him was Illinois. In college, it's a little bit different, but it just felt like a weird hire. Like Texans weren't ready for their long-term guy yet, so I put him at 27. We'll see how he does with Houston this year. Dan Campbell at 26. I love Dan Campbell as a leader. I love his energy. He's got to be a lot better on the field as a coach in situational situations, because last year there was some questionable decisions that kind of cost them some games. They could have won some more games there. I know the team really wasn't the best on paper, but I thought they were in position to win some more games. So he's got to do a little bit better. He's a very likable guy. I really like what the Lions are building there. 25, Dennis Allen, two guys in a row from that Saints tree. When we saw Dennis Allen as a head coach of the Raiders, it went pretty poorly. I think in a little better situation, he's grown more. He's familiar with the Saints as well, so he definitely should be better. He just really has to. He's still, almost on the unproven. I was only going with first-year head coaches in the unproven, but still almost in that area for Dennis Allen. So we'll see. Are we going to get that Raiders guy? I think we'll get better, but still needs to pick it up a little bit. Matt Rule, 24, and even though he's kind of in one of these bottom tiers, or really the bottom tier we're ranking, I do think he probably gets ripped a little bit too much, just a little bit, because I think, well, who's really choosing the quarterbacks over there? How much say does he have? But I think it's more so the terrible quarterback play. I think, Rule, his involvement on both sides of the ball throughout his career, I think he's a solid leader as well. It's just a matter of getting that quarterback, but Yeah, they started hot last year. They kind of went cold, so that's not great. It's kind of why, and he hasn't really been having success. People call him for his job, so he's towards the bottom here a little bit. But the quarterback play was just so bad that maybe he gets ripped a little bit too much. Maybe it's not fully his fault. Then Arthur Smith feels like another unproven guy. I like Arthur Smith. I like his offensive playbook, play calling as well. It is interesting though. What they got going over there, because he went from Tennessee having Derrick Henry. Now it's interesting what they're doing with the running backs, not valuing it super high. So it's kind of surprising. So where are they at? Maybe a little bit of a mess right now, maybe because they're kind of resetting. So where's he going to be at this year? Again, I do like his playbook, his play calling. It does feel a little bit different than Tennessee, though. So it just was all right last year, kind of middle of the pack, but just really has to prove more. But I like the idea of him. I think he can be really... It's not the best roster going into this year, so it doesn't help Arthur Smith a whole lot, but I really think he can boost himself up very easily. I like the potential of Arthur Smith there. So pretty close to being in the next tier, but that, still a lot more to prove. And these guys have more to prove as well. Tier 6, I think these guys are okay at the moment. That's where I consider them. Definitely more to prove. Again, they can climb. Todd Bowles at 22. Yes, the last time we saw him with the Jets, it was not good. He didn't really do anything that said, he's doing a bad job. He's making bad decisions. I didn't really see that. The team was just really bad, but that doesn't kind of give him a pass. Like, okay, so that means he's really good. It's not how it works. It has to prove more, but he's a proven guy in terms of his defense. Can he lead this team? The Buccaneers, Tom Brady, these guys seem to be very confident with him. So we'll put Bowles at 22. Josh McDaniels at 21. That was a good hire for the Raiders. Yeah, I guess the last time he was a head coach didn't go great. I don't know if it went that poorly. I thought showing some promise as a head coach. I think decision-making, which he had played a big part on drafting who they're bringing in, and that really didn't go well. But as a coach, I think he's okay for right now with the ability to be a lot better. So I think some people would kind of go based off what he did in the past only and kind of rank him a little bit more towards the bottom. I wouldn't go that far. Mike McCarthy 20, which I know PFF had pretty high. Based off the past, he did win a Super Bowl. That's great. He's been a little sloppy so far. Another guy, though, I think he probably gets ripped a bit too much, like for the playoff game. I thought it wasn't great, but I thought the people were kind of avoiding ripping any players for that playoff game. Either the players definitely need to execute better, but overall there's been some sloppy moments for McCarthy. He's got to be better, especially with the talent on the Cowboys. I think they're a little more talented on paper last year than they are going to be this year because they moved on from some guys, but they've had extremely good talent and they've kind of struggled to win the big games against the best teams, and he's kind of had some interesting, to say the least, moments. So he has more to prove to kind of get himself back up to where he was. So for right now, for heading into 2022 for this season, I'm going to put him at 20, even though PFF thinks differently. Tier 5, quite a few guys here, and I might have went a little bold, especially at the top at 13, but I think these guys are solid to me. They're solid, but they definitely have more to prove at the same time. It's nothing set in stone with them. That's something I realized. There's not too many. Yes, that coach is very good. Like, there's not too many of those. Like, that coach he's very solid. Like, there's not too many. I think tier 5 and the rest above really separate here, even though we see 13, 14, 50. These are very good ranks. But I think there's kind of a shortage on, again, guys that are kind of proven and very good track records. But 19, I'm going to go Nick Sirianni. It's a tricky one to rank because he started off very bad last year. Very, very bad. People were already very disappointed, to say the least. And then he turned it around. He helped get that Eagles team to the playoffs, and he really adjusted his play calling for the better. And it was kind of something new. That Hurts-type offense is something new for Sirianni with his offense, the offenses he's familiar with. So maybe it was kind of a learning, an adjustment, a learning period curve there. So he really got going, but is one of those guys that's still, he's kind of unproven at the same time and it feels like he's solid because he went through that learning curve. He adjusted pretty quickly. I mean, we've only been one season, but which Sirianni are we going to get going forward? So he's a very tricky one to rank. 18, Ron Rivera, maybe declining a little bit. I think this year will really determine that. I think he's a very solid defensive coordinator, defensive coach still. I feel like he's a solid leader. So it's kind of a guy that's, where is he at? He's kind of was proven at one point. Where is he at right now? Now, Doug Peterson, I like Doug Peterson, and he won a Super Bowl, so you could say he's proven, but it's kind of like a reset now, and he kind of struggled. He got fired, took a year off. Now he's with the Jaguars, pretty good place to be with Trevor Lawrence there and more good young players. So it's kind of more to prove. He's got to prove it again going forward. But I always kind of like Doug Peterson. I know he kind of struggled a little bit at the end, but Wentz ends up struggling as well. So maybe that played a big part. So I put him at 17. Stefanski's another tough one to rank. This past year was more of the Stefanski that I thought it would be. This year kind of made sense. A lot of people ripped him. This year, based off 2021, people probably rank him towards the very bottom, like close to the bottom. People ripped him. They didn't love it. What was he doing with Nick Chubb? Passing when he should run, running when he should pass. And then the year before, coach of the year was fantastic. Look at him as one of the better coaches in football. And sometimes that happens in the first year head coaches because teams really can't game plan for them. So which Stefanski are we going to get? I don't love the system. It's kind of like run first, West Coast, a lot of play action. How will that work with Deshaun Watson? Usually those types of play callers with that system, they think they're the guy. Like, they're more of the guy. They need their system to work, and then we have Watson. He's the guy. Go let him run the show, build it around him, run it around him. So I'm very curious to see. We'll see if Watson even plays. So Stefanski's right here in the middle because it's kind of all over the place between his first 2 years. Cliff Kingsbury is probably the most interesting coach in general, but to rank as well out of any of them. The Cardinals head coach at 15 here. And I would actually say he's underrated. But then you look at PFF's ranking. What was PFF's ranking? They had him at 4, and that makes him look like he's overrated. That was probably one of the bigger complaints. Like, how is Kingsbury at 4? That's a little ridiculous. But I actually thought he was maybe slightly underrated because, kind of 2 years in a row, the Cardinals start off great and they kind of went downhill. And usually when that happens, the finger pointing goes to the coach, it makes sense. I think a lot of people deserve blame. Why can't he adjust? Why can't he figure it out? Why is he choked down at the end of the year? And then, the Cardinals like him for long term. So people are kind of complaining they need somebody else because they got talent. But at the same time, he is the system there. That system, that, spread offense that works for Kyler Murray. There's not too many coaches in the NFL, and of course you can hire someone else that wants to run that or from college. There's not too many that can actually run that actually fits that. So if they move on from Kingsbury, it might be a little tricky for the Cardinals. So it's an interesting one because he's a very important piece to that team, that offense, that system, and it's kind of a hassle to go against his offense system too, and that's why they win so and they do so well early in the year. It's just all about the game plan. You don't have much to go off of, and it's just a pain in the ass to kind of go against it. So he's a tricky one. He does have to be better, and he has to win more games down the stretch, get his team more prepared for the stretch when guys are injured, when guys are out. But I do like the system there. It's in place for his players to thrive. And I think without him, with just, some of these other NFL coaches, I don't know if they would be as good, really. So, again, it's a very interesting one. And Brandon Staley at 14, maybe a little bold. I think people for right now would probably put him lower because, they rip him a lot based on last year. A lot of interesting decisions, going for it on fourth down, things like that. I think people probably rip him a little bit too much. Yes, he has to go out and do better. So some of those decisions, were not good. But, game of inches, if they convert most of those, then he looks like a genius. And this year he very well. I like his mentality. Maybe not 100% of the time I agree with him, but I like where his head's at. I think he's a very good defensive coordinator. I think he'll get this team on the right track here. So I like Staley. I like where he's heading, and again, probably gets ripped a little bit too much based on those decisions last year, but that's him. He's going to keep doing that, and it could win him a Super Bowl one day, and then he could look like a genius. It's kind of one of those situations. Robert Saleh of the Jets, I put at 13, and he's kind of a little bit unproven at the same time, but I'm just extremely confident that he's a solid coach with more to prove, obviously. He's a very good defensive coordinator. I feel good about him as a leader. Everything I saw last year is just the Jets just the talent on the team just wasn't there yet. And they had some injuries as well. It's just nothing that he did. It's like, all right, he's holding them back. There's some questionable decision-making with the coaching, situational moments. There's nothing like that, So this is more of just me being confident that he is going to be, and he is, a solid coach, but he does have more to prove. So I put him at 13. But there is a big gap after the top 13. There's a big difference. These are the guys that we talked about so far. Really, all of them are not fully proven. And any of them could be on the hot seat at any given time. That's just how it is in the NFL. There's kind of a shortage on proven, really good coaches. So we're on the next tier. Only 2 in this tier. Very solid. Coaches I view as very solid. 12, Frank Reich. Maybe a lot of these guys, I think, maybe got ripped a little bit too much last year. Yeah, you expected the Colts to make the playoffs. They didn't make it. Probably should rip him for believing in Carson Wentz a little bit too much. But people ripped him for going away from the run. Sometimes, but I don't really mind it. You don't want to get predictable. You don't want to keep at it. The Bucs game, for an example, second half. Yeah, maybe you trusted Wentz a little bit too much, but the Bucs, their elite run-stopping defense, they were going to adjust. Tom Brady was going to adjust. They were going to start scoring, so extend that lead. I like the thinking. I don't really mind it. Didn't really work out, but I think Frank Reich's a good leader. He always builds good offense. He's got a good system. Always helps the offensive line with that scheme. Always making guys better, developing players. I think doing a solid job at that. Overall, I think he's been a winner as well. I know they didn't make the playoffs last year, but I think he's a solid coach. I think they're kind of right there getting over that hump. I don't think it's the coach at all. I don't think it's the coach holding it back. Number 11, Zach Taylor of the Bengals. He went to the Super Bowl last year, and Zach Taylor is just super, super close to bursting up this list. Huge jump up this list. Really that close, because we need another year. If he wins that division again, maybe they lose in the first round of the playoffs, I think that even that boosts them up big time, because he just really took that Bengals team and really turned it around. We saw that as well. The front office deserves credit as well. I think he's got a good offensive system. I think he's a good play caller. It's one of those that he still isn't fully proven. He's still got to kind of go out there and do a little bit more. But I still view him as a very solid coach with a chance of very soon making a huge leap up into the rankings. Just has to do a little bit more, because it's kind of just one very solid season there from him. But again, confident that there's more to come there. Next, Pete Carroll's got his own tier 3, elite career. Kind of on the decline a little bit. Feels like he's on his way out. I don't think he's as good of a coach as he once was, but I do think he's still a good coach. The Seahawks are always put up in a fight, really. You always put up a fight. They're always a solid team. I know last year was not the greatest, but they were able to stick in there. Missing Russell Wilson, but they're still. And the roster hasn't really. They've had some good rosters. Don't get me wrong, but the roster recently has kind of had some star players here and there, but they've had some gaps, some holes, some guys missing as well. And they're still able to put up a fight. So obviously he's a good coach. He's a very good leader. Had a great career. Just it's kind of. If you were to rank these guys based off their career, he'd be much higher than 10, and 10's very good, but we see where he's at kind of heading into 2022 here, and I don't think he has much longer. He could be retiring soon, so we'll see, though. Next, this is tier 2. These are proven winners and leaders. These are great coaches, in my opinion. I'd say maybe they're elite winners as well, elite leaders. Maybe not a whole lot splitting them up from the top guys, but Matt LaFleur just continues to win with the Packers. I know Aaron Rodgers has probably a lot to do with that, runs the offense a bit. If you had the nitpick, LaFleur, kind of relying on Rodgers to be elite every single, week. Obviously, see them come up short offensively in the playoffs at times, but overall, he's a proven winner, proven leader, gets his team prepared, and they continue to win and be very, very consistent. There's not too many teams more consistent than the Green Bay Packers. Sean McDermott, very good leader. Seems like he's involved in every part of the team here, aspect of the team. It's a very good team, consistently winning now. Turned that team around and some of those players around a lot faster than we thought, too. And then Mike Vrabel, who's the reigning NFL Coach of the Year, comes in at 7. Maybe talk about leader, maybe the best leader of all of them in the NFL, knows how to get his team prepared, involved all the way throughout that team there, and it continues to win, just continues to be a dominant regular season team here from the Tennessee Titans, and they're kind of missing that elite, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, the two coaches we just talked about, he's kind of just missing that as well. So Vrabel's done a fantastic job. And Kyle Shanahan's easily at the top of this list. He's very close to being in that tier 1, or could even had maybe his own tier, because I do think he's definitely like Vrabel, McDermott, LaFleur. If you wanted to rank them, LaFleur, Vrabel, McDermott, whatever, I'm not really going to argue with you, But Shanahan, I definitely put at the top of these guys, and he consistently is a problem for opposing teams, defenses. It kind of has that unique system, very good play caller, consistently winning, getting further in the playoffs than we think a lot, winning more games than we think, doesn't have that elite quarterback, just keeps coming up a little bit short. And he kind of has those moments in those big games that he cannot really finish, even though he wins a lot of big games at the same time, that he kind of has those moments where throughout his career where it's like, oh, poor decision there. It's only like a few of them throughout his career because he's such a good decision maker, great play caller, but the few that popped up have been extremely costly. I mean, even going back to the Falcons Super Bowl, even going back to that. But and I guess if you have the nitpick too, it's such a very good system, and it's just physical, throughout the year. But then as soon as it gets into the playoffs, it's like, and he still wins, still finds a way to win. But it's like if a team is able to kind of game plan for it, which the best, there's bound to be somebody in the playoffs because the best of the best, then there's really not much you can do there offensively. You kind of have to get the ball downfield. So I guess, where is could the adjustments be better? Could the adjustments, in game in those big games be better? But elite winner, especially in the regular season, finding ways to win games when you think they're kind of the underdog there. Definitely proven. You could call him an elite winner, but it's hard to put him in the category. It's very close, but until he gets over that hump, he wins that Super Bowl, then we can put him in that category here. But the top guys, the tier 1, the elite, they have elite careers, but they're also elite now, in my opinion, at the same time, and that's what makes these guys special. Sean McVay, who wasn't even in the top 10 of that PFF ranking, I put at 5. And this is probably the one where people say, elite career? Really? He won his first Super Bowl, just won it. Would you say elite career? I'm going to say so. I mean, he won a Super Bowl. Not too many coaches are winning a Super Bowl. Fresh off that Super Bowl, won. But kind of the impact he's made on the game, I don't think is talked about enough. The changes the league has made kind of because of Sean McVay. He comes in and it kind of works into LA, and it kind of works out right away. It's a different type of offense. It's kind of changing the era. Teams everyone's interested, intrigued, maybe we got to do that. And then teams trying to gear towards replicating something like that. And then they're even getting guys that were coaching with him way back or recently. Everyone's hiring these guys. So I think he's impacted the game so much, and he's fresh off the Super Bowl this past year. So I definitely think he's elite. I definitely think he's elite. I think he's top 5 for sure. And then Andy Reid at 4, hell of a career, and still doing it now. Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they're still a contending team at any given time. And you could say, yeah, he has Patrick Mahomes, maybe he's the best player in football. But he's such a good play caller as well. Got that team prepared. And there's so many coaches that kind of just go. It's almost like they go by like a handbook, like 4th and 1 or 3rd and inches, like we have to do this, and it gets so predictable. And Andy Reid just kind of doesn't go by that, that handbook or whatever it is. He kind of goes what works, what he feels is best. And sometimes he'll run the same play over and over again in those situations because he don't want to overthink things. And I love that because there's not too many coaches that do that. It just feels like he always has his team prepared, ready to win at any time. John Harbaugh, maybe arguably the best leader in all of football as well. A team that's always winning, a team that's always tough on both sides of the ball. Every single player on his team will be tough, will be physical, play through the whistle. It's just one of those coaches, one of those teams that John Harbaugh always has. Ravens extremely beat up last year, and they're still a pain in the ass. They're still fighting. They're still a tough team to beat. And they've been limited sometimes in some categories, and they're still fighting. They're still a contending team. So that's really what makes Harbaugh. I think he's involved in every aspect as well. But it really makes him top 3 in my opinion. Mike Tomlin is number 2, who is not in the top 10 of the PFF rankings. Just absolutely wild. I'd rank him at 1 before I wouldn't rank him in the top 10 or top 2. If I ranked him would I be closer ranking him at 1 or 3? I'd say 1 probably. Mike Tomlin, proven winner, very good leader, elite defensive coach as well. Always has his team prepared. He always is winning. There's always those Steelers teams that, like, you know, maybe they finally take that step down, and nope, and they're still in there. They're still fine. I mean, last year's a great example. Like, they, roster-wise, on paper, you know, there was teams better than the Steelers that didn't make the playoffs, and there was teams, you know, even statistically, or on paper, and the Steelers just clutched up and just found ways. Some of them you can't really explain. It's just Mike Tomlin is a big. It gets to a certain point where it's definitely not a coincidence anymore. It's not luck. It's not something going on. You know, I don't know. It's Mike Tomlin just knows how to find ways to win. The Steelers have consistently won, and they continue to do it. If they do it this year, and they very well could, you know, we'll see if it's Kenny Pickett or Mitchell Trubisky, then just adds to Mike Tomlin's resume. So to me, he's number 2. And the GOAT, Bill Belichick, is number 1. Yes, he's the GOAT of all time. That doesn't necessarily mean he's number 1 because I need them to be, you know, elite right now, but I think he is. You know, what he did with the Patriots team this past year, you know, draft a quarterback in the first round. You know, really, I don't know if that team looked like a playoff team on paper, but he had that team there. You know, like, once again, he had a very, very good defense. It fell apart maybe at the end there, but elite defense again. Knows how to prepare these guys. Mac Jones kind of getting them pro ready, kind of getting them relaxed. You know, you see it in all these players, the players that he's developed over the years. So I do still think it's still hard to, you know, it's hard to take him off that one spot. You know, he is one all time. You know, but is he going to take a step down? He's not winning Super Bowls right now, but it's just hard to take him out of that spot because it's just a guy that I still trust more than anyone. And what he did last year, what he's able to do is just phenomenal there for you know, with that Patriots team, you know, getting to the playoffs. And we'll see if they do it again. They have some offensive coordinator issues or questions right now, which is interesting. But yeah, those are my tiers and my rankings for the head coaches. Let me know what you would change in the comments there. I know people will probably rip me, but I don't think as much as PFF. That was something. No Tomlin or McVay in the top 10. I got them in the top 5, and they got guys ranked in the top 10 that I had ranked kind of down there. But again, there's getting, you know, the top 12 I think really separate themselves or so. Yeah, the top 12 separate themselves from the rest. There's a big gap. I think there's a shortage on proven guys, but there are some guys, you know, kind of ranked in the bottom group of guys that I do think maybe get ripped a little bit too much. Maybe they are a hair underrated, you know, but there is a shortage on proven guys. That is for sure. Like, only a handful of guys here, it feels like, could actually win it all. It's kind of similar to quarterbacks. You realize how important the coach is, even though players are the most important. You know, team usually with a top tier quarterback and the most talent on their team is most likely to win it all, but a lot of the time, I think the coaches kind of hold, you know, it's more so you need a guy that's not going to hold you back because there's some coaches that kind of outsmart themselves. Some bad coaching, some bad play calling out there these days. So you just don't want that, obviously. But that'll wrap up my rankings video. Good to be back here with the content. I always talk with you guys on Twitter there. We got the polls rolling right now for the playoffs. That'll eventually create a video, like a fan voted playoff video there. So check it out. Link for the Twitter down below. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on me. Much, much appreciate. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.